Good evening, folks. HeirofCarthage here, bringing you to a matchup that is as old as Total War Warhammer itself. That's right, this is going to be some vampires versus Empire. And I love this matchup and have ever since the game released. I'm assuming some of you out there may have enjoyed this matchup when everything was still tabletop. That's right, I don't know. But anyway, we're going to have Heinrich Kemmler and some really cool units coming up against the Empire. I'm actually just going to straight up pause it for a minute because the battle is going to get underway rather quickly, and this is a really fun battle. Heinrich has brought a corpse cart with an unholy lodestone. This is great for helping units around. I think it actually imparts some healing as well. Claw of Nagash Mortis engine with the chilling effect. And then check out this. This is a spooky ghost army. Hang on, is it skeleton? I don't remember how the song goes. Spooky skeletons, whatever it is. Anyway, there's going to be a bunch of ghost here. And this is going to be a pretty much all Wraith army. And there's a few reasons why this is an interesting pick versus the Empire. The Empire does have magic damage that you have to be aware of, and they have it in a lot of forms. Remember, the Empire is a jack of all trades. However, state troops do not have a prayer against Karen Wraiths because of the terror and speed and just physical resistance that they have. There's also a Banshee also going to impart terror. Front line of zombies just for a meat shield. Pretty important when you're bringing an army that's going to be as small as this one. And then Kemmler also has a White King helping to support. And then there is a bunch of Wraith cavalry as well. We've got the Chillgeist Hex Wraiths over here. And then Vanguard deployed behind the Empire are more units of Hex Wraiths and Dire Wolves. And I do believe that they are going... I thought they were coming from both flanks. I guess I'm wrong here. It's coming all from this flank. They're hidden in the woods nicely. In any case, the Empire is led by none other than Karl Franz, who's, I guess, here to face down Heinrich. And Karl's army is going to consist of a couple of huntsmen. He's going to be supported by a battle wizard here. This is a Jade Wizard. It's got some healing spells, and then there are a bunch of state troops, along with a little bit of cavalry, and with the state troops, some elite infantry as well. We've got the Great Swords here to potentially help deal with Grave Guards, and then there are Demigryph Knights with halberds, which are pretty solid, especially with the support of a Jade Wizard up against something like Blood Knights. But that's a mistake that some vampire players continue to make. Blood Knights aren't the pick versus the Empire. And honestly, don't get me wrong, Blood Knights are a very good unit, but I think they're even better when you combine them with Hex Wraiths. It's an interesting combination that we could talk about another time, but it's a deadly combination for the vampires, and it makes them almost dominant from a heavy cavalry standpoint in the right scenarios. Anyway, there is a rocket battery here, but I mean, with Karen Wraiths and zombies as your only target, it's going to be somewhat difficult for that rocket battery to pay off. We will see whether it's able to do so or not. There is the Silver Bullets handgunners, and they are here and going to be a huge threat to any Wraith units to get anywhere near them. So it's going to be something that the Empire will have to keep an eye on. Now you can see that the Empire has pushed ahead with Karl Franz, looking to maybe go do some scouting, maybe a little harassment. There are some Outriders out on the flank as well, but they're going to have to watch out for the Chillgeist. So check this out as well. Those Wraiths and Wolves that were hidden in the woods, they're headed this way. There was another unit that I just couldn't see because of where they were deployed. See, folks, I actually did watch the replay ahead of time. I just somehow managed to forget in that short period. So another Wraith unit gets in here, and another reason why these Hex Wraiths are so dangerous is not just for the Demigryph Knights, but squishy targets like skirmishers can be quickly terror-routed at the hands of Hex Wraiths. And this is another unit here that if the Empire loses the Silver Bullets early in this, it's going to be absolutely devastating because it takes away a lot of the magic damage potential. And you can see the Silver Bullets is fleeing while the Huntsmen take the brunt of it over here. And the other Wraiths and Wolves are kind of just waiting for their turn. And this is able to keep the Empire troops busy enough for the Claw of Nagash and Kemmler to arrive, and they go straight for the most deadly unit on the battlefield for the Empire here. And because this is a Wraith army, it's not Karl Franz, folks. It's not Karl Franz. It's definitely going to be the Silver Bullets. But Franz isn't happy about what's happening, and he's headed back this way. And with the Jade Wizard around, Karl Franz should most definitely not be underestimated. He will be very, very powerful, especially if he starts to wield the Rune Fang. So here you can see the rest of the vampire army coming in, and already on this flank, again, what I mentioned about state troops, they just cannot hold. Even against zombies, you throw in these Cairn Wraiths and it's over. They cannot hold the line. It is going to be way too dangerous. And then right there, we just missed a... or no, we didn't. I just heard a spell going off there. I thought I missed something else. Yeah, this is what I wanted to catch right here. So check it out. On top of being able to summon Krell, KEMMLER also has a Wind of Death here that does rip through a few of its own troops, but manages to cause massive damage to a greatsword unit. And that was right after KEMMLER had summoned Krell. And Krell and the White King and a couple of Cairn Wraiths get busy taking down Karl, and Karl is now in bad shape despite the fact that he has healing. And while Karl's busy, the Wraiths just don't lay off. They are just shredding through everything in the Empire army, and Demigryph Knights just cannot contend with Hex Wraiths. They lose to them, period. And unless you have some way of imbuing magic damage or something else like that, then the Demigryph Knights will just get slaughtered by the Wraiths. It is a fight that even the standard Hex Wraith wins, and the Chillgeist wins it even more convincingly. So at this point, the Empire player throws in the towel. Franz was getting KO'd. And I know this is a kind of short replay, but there's a reason why I showed it. The reason why I showed it is because this is a pick you don't see all the time with vampires. People are very big on like Manfred and Blood Knights, and don't get me wrong, both of those picks are perfectly legitimate. And there are a lot of different ways the vampires can play, especially considering the fact that they're a no-skirmish faction. So you have to just be very aware the vampires can play in a lot of interesting ways. Had the vampires gone with like a more standard infantry contingent with a lot of Graveguard, the rocket, Hellstorm rocket battery would have been gruesome. It would have done tons of damage to expensive infantry. Because there was just zombies and wraiths, this thing's not going to do much of anything. And then if you think about the cavalry picks, now Knights of the Blazing Sun, not a bad idea. You can end up with quite a few units that are weak to fire damage from the vampires. So not a terrible idea to bring in some Knights of the Blazing Sun. And if you're going to be up against Blood Knights, a combination of Outriders, Healing, and Demigryph Knights could be quite good, especially if you have to take out a dragon or, say, a Vargol for other large targets. Demigryph Knights with halberds excel at that, and if they have the support of some ranged troops, like Huntsmen with their anti-large, Outriders with the anti-armor, Silver Bullets with the magic damage, they can definitely be effective. And if you're kind of preparing for Graveguard or cheaper infantry, well, state troops aren't going to win, but they can hold the line for a little while, potentially, and especially if they got the help of Sigmar's sons and great swords. But again, this vampire army in this case just shuts all of that down, just shuts it completely down. And you can see that the Hex Wraiths here, the Chill guys, barely even got a chance to kill anything. These other two Hex Wraiths just stole the show, came in from behind and just started slamming their way through the Empire army, and the terror was just not something that army could handle in this case. Picks are important in Warhammer 2, and you know, sometimes you can have a totally good reason for the pick the Empire has here. I can see it. I don't think it's an awful pick. It just depends on what you come up against. And that, you know, to me, sometimes can be frustrating for people. Even myself, right? I'll pick and be like, oh man, I just lost off the picks. It's okay. It happens sometimes. And to me, that is part of the fun of this game. It's what kind of army you're going to bring. These factions are so asymmetric to each other. The Empire is totally different than the vampires, and both of them can bring builds that are dangerous to each other and very different from the next. And so I love this replay, one, because I love gameplay with a lot of ethereal units. It is fun, but it can totally go south if things don't go your way as well. So this is not unbeatable by any means, but it is a pick that could definitely catch someone off guard. The Wind of Death play, along with summoning Krell, always a good call for the vampires. Ton of fun. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed this one. Sovereign, I appreciate you sending it in. It was a lot of fun. And the unnamed player over here, thanks for playing as well. Like I said, I don't necessarily disagree with his army picks. I think a lot of his picks are pretty smart versus vampires. Just wasn't going to work out in this case. Anyway, you all tell me what you think about the Empire-Vampire matchup. Like I said, this one's as old as the game itself. I really love the Empire, but from a confidence standpoint, I always feel more confident if I'm playing the vampires against the Empire, and it's because you can't really get your troops routed. Like, I feel like the vampires are maybe a little more forgiving faction to play than the Empire, though in skilled hands, man, the Empire's got a lot of tools, and they can be used to devastating effect. I'm curious what you all think. Anyway, appreciate the players who submitted it. Hey, if you have a replay, I've been watching all the replays you all submit, either to my email, which is airtotalwar@gmail.com, or on the Discord. If you click the link in the description, join the Discord. We have a Warhammer 2 replays thread, and Pope Pratani, Sovereign, Veggie Vampire, Pit Host, White Smoke, the Ascended, bunch of folks have submitted some great replays recently. I don't get to put them all on the channel, but I do watch them, and I very much appreciate it. It's also a good place to post replays if you want to get some feedback. You know, how to get some feedback on the battles. In fact, Pope Brittani posted a couple that are losses. What would you all think if I go ahead and post as 2 losses and we could just have some fun? I mean, obviously it is going to be backseat driving, right? Hindsight's 2020. But what if we give him some advice on what we think he could have done better? I mean, doesn't always help, but maybe it is, and we do it in a constructive way. But I don't know. You all tell me what you think. Anyway, HeirofCarthage signing out for now. I will see you all soon.